what's coming with it.
Wait till we see the fish.
It's a tuna, bro!
It's a solid fish, man. Holy! This is what we came for!
Hey team, well obviously today we're not on another adventure, we're here in my shed. We're going to give you a little bit of a tech talk around chasing these Southern Bluefin Tuna off the coast of Greymouth here in the South Island. This video is more focused around you beginners who haven't tried, who are thinking about going over there and giving it a crack for themselves. We'll focus on the safeties around the basics of the bar crossing, the safety equipment you should have on board, things to be mindful of while out there. Some of the gear you're going to need to chase these fish, lures, how to chase them on bait, and then hopefully if you get lucky and hook up, how to potentially land your first bluefin tuna. Obviously if you have been out and caught these fish before, this video might be for you as well. You might learn something new. I am only going to run over the basic. We're not going to dive deep into tips and tricks and so on in this one. It's not long now team, it's only a month and a bit away until these awesome species show up off the coast down there in Greymouth. I am super excited, I cannot wait, and I bet you guys are just as excited as I am. So let's get started team, so we might as well dive straight into it. The bar crossing. Now, like any bar crossing, none of them should be taken lightly. They should all be taken seriously, and the Greymouth Bar is one of the worst bar crossings in New Zealand. So what we always try and do is time our trips around crossing that bar as close to high tide as possible in the daylight. You don't want to cross it anywhere near low tide or mid tide. I've had some bad advice in the past myself around you can just cross it at slack tide. That is completely wrong. That is bullshit. You want to cross it when there is as much water as possible in that river. You obviously don't want to be crossing at mid tide. You don't want to be crossing at low tide. Cross as close to high tide. Yes, big tides do matter. So bigger tides closer to high tide as possible. When the smaller tides you can get around an hour either side quite safely. So what we do is, like I said before, we time our trip and launch around being there as close to high tide as possible. But as soon as we arrive in Greymouth, we'll drive straight to the northern tip head. The reason we go to the northern one is there's a really nice turnaround area. When you've got your boats on the back of your wagon, you can easily do a U-turn there and head back to the ramp. So we'll go to the tip head, have a look there for a good 20 minutes, half an hour, watch the sets come in, learn the behaviour on what the bar's up to. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Or is it staying the same? You hope it's either getting better or staying the same. So you watch the sets, you'll see it might be breaking on one side of the bar more than the other. You hope it's not breaking at all across the bar. If it is, do not cross. Just wait for it to settle down again. Now, there is a second bar further out you need to be mindful of as well. So watch that too, because you think you crossed safely the first one, that second one can get you as well. Now, what I'm looking at on swell map or time zero, anywhere I'm looking at swells, windy, I've got it, predictor wind as well. I'm looking for swell that's 12 seconds or more in the period, and I'm looking at anything 2 meters or below. Anything above that, I'm not too interested in going. I'm also looking for a dropping swell. The last thing you want is to be getting caught way out there in the Hokey Trench. So once we've looked at the tip heads, the swell's looking good, we can see it's nice and clear, we're gonna get a nice crossing. Go down to the ramp, launch your boat. Now, pre this, I would have already gone on the local Greymouth District Council website. I would have downloaded the latest sonar readings to see what the depths are across that bar as well, as this bar can change overnight. If there hasn't been a decent flood in a while, it can be quite shallow, but if you're crossing close to high tide, you will be fine. Now, people in Westport this year, they obviously didn't look at the soundings. They hit the bottom just on their cruise out. Some even hit the bottom on their way across the bar. You don't want to be doing that, especially in Greymouth or anywhere, to be honest. So once you're in the water, first thing you want to do obviously is lodge a trip report with either Coast Guard or Maritime New Zealand. It only takes a couple of minutes, team. It's a good habit to get into. You should be doing it no matter what. Lodge that in, and then that report's lodged. I'll also lodge a trip report either with a partner, a close friend or family. Whoever I know could be contacted, I'll let them know, yep, we're safely across the bar. this is what time we're expecting to be home tomorrow, and let them know. Obviously, if we get delayed, we'll let them know where we can. Now, you obviously want to make sure that you've got a working VHF. You should always have 2 points of communication while you're out there. You're a long way offshore, team. It's a long way back. Something goes wrong, you need those 2 points of communication in case one doesn't work. Yes, you'll get a little bit of cell phone reception here and there out there, but you don't want to rely on it. So always have a VHF. We also carry a handheld VHF in our dry bag on board the boat as well, which is always fully charged as a backup. And then we've got a personal locator beacon or an EPIRB. You want to have them at all times on board you or the boat. As part of the checklist of your boat before you head out, you just want to also make sure that your bilge pump is going. The last thing you want is a greenie over the front when you cross that bar or further out and your deck's filling up with water and you've got no way of getting rid of it. So just make sure that that bilge pump is working. You should have life jackets for everyone on board. Everyone should be wearing life jackets as you cross the bar and you're across it safely. If you're under 6 meters, you should be wearing life jackets all the time. At night time when you're out there, you should probably have your life jackets on all the time in a trailer boat as well. Other safety things you want to make sure you've got on board your boat is a fire extinguisher. There is nothing worse than having a fire on board a boat. You want to have a basic flare kit and a good tow rope as well. You never know when you might need it or someone else might need that. And then plenty of spare fuel. You really want to overcalculate this. It's a long way there, it's a long way home. If it does chop up, you do use more gas. You want to allow for that. If you're towing lures for 10 hours, you use 10 litres an hour, that's 100 litres. So very quickly you can go for your tank of gas. Now with all your spare fuel, you obviously want to make sure that you've got something that you can put your spare fuel into your boat, like a funnel, or you can get those hand pumps or hoses and so on. The last thing you want to do is have spare fuel out there, but no way of getting it into your tank safely and it all into your tank. You don't want to be spilling it everywhere because that might be the difference between you guys running out and getting back home. Also on board, you want to make sure you've got a good first aid kit. You've got a lot of sharp objects, especially when you're leadering a fish. You've got gaffs, you've got hooks and knives, all that sort of stuff going on. So a really good first aid kit is a must on board, I reckon, out there as well. So if you're going to stay the night on the water out there, which it's pretty good fishing at night time as well, obviously, there are a few things you need to make sure you've got or keep in mind. One, I reckon you should always have a radar if you're going to be out there at night time. The beauty about the radar is you can set a guard zone. We'll always have our guard zone set for 500 meters while we're fishing and we're wide awake. And that means that we don't have to be paying attention to the screen the whole time. The radar will just work. If someone comes in that zone or a bird, depending on your settings, then you'll get an alert and you can look around. Oh, it's just a bird, sweet. Oh, it's a boat, right? We better see what's going on or whatever. Once we've had enough of fishing, we've caught our catch or we just want to get some rest, we'll drive away from all the action. So we'll get away from all the trawlers, we'll get away from all the other boats, and then we'll leave our radar zone on that 500 meters. We'll set another one for 1,000. And then we'll also set our anchor drift alarm on as well for 1,000 meters. Yes, we're not going to be on anchor, but that means if we drift outside that zone, we'll get alerted. We'll also have one person on watch during the night and we'll just rotate that every couple of hours. And that just means that someone is awake if something does go wrong or something needs to be attended to. We also have a sea anchor out the back to slow our drift down because you can drift pretty quickly out there with the currents and the wind. Other things you need to make sure you've got on is your nav lights, obviously, your anchor light. You want to make sure you've got your deck lights and underwater lights on. These big trawlers and the likes of Valhalla as well, they've got some pretty big blind spots. Nav lights are very hard to see. So if you have your deck lights on and your underwater lights along with your anchor light, you're a lot more visible. Do not have your main light bar on up at your bow because that is just going to blind everyone. It's a pain in the ass. So if you just get your nav lights, anchor light, your 2 deck lights, whatever you've got at the back, plus your underwater lights on, you'll be nice and visible and easy for everyone to see, and have that on even while you're asleep. Obviously, if you've only got one battery on board your boat, leave your engine running all night so you don't run out of battery. You don't want to be that dude that needs a jump start, which is pretty hard to do, obviously, way out there on the water. Now, another thing you want to make sure is that you've always got channel 6 or 16. As we saw last year, the trawlers tried to get in touch with a boat, and we all know what happened. Luckily, they're still here to tell the tale. Do not use 6 or 16 as boat-to-boat chat. Use channel 8 as your boat-to-boat chat, or 10, whatever channel you want to use out there. Another thing to be wary of, which we'll get in later on with bait fishing, but with the trawlers, their nets can pop up 500 meters behind the trawler, and then the net can be 200 meters long. So bear that in mind when you're crossing the stern of trawlers, especially if they're hauling. You should not cross over the back unless you can see the bag. If you can see the bag, obviously cross behind the bag. If they're hauling, just stay clear. We'll get into more detail around fishing around these trawlers later on anyway. Now, it can't really be stressed enough how cold it is and can be out there. So you want to make sure you've got heaps of warm clothing, thermals on. You want to have a spare set of clothing in case you obviously get wet. In the first aid kit, more than likely you'll have a survival blanket as well if needed, but you just want to make sure you've got plenty of warm clothing, because trust me team, it gets freezing out there, especially on a trailer boat. And if you don't have a closed-in cabin, you haven't got those added creature comforts like those people do with doors or the likes on Valhalla and so on. Alright, so weather apps and what am I looking for when it comes to weather? So I mainly use Time Zero and Windy are my main two. There's obviously Predict Wind, which is very good, and Swell Map, which is good around your swell. Not so much we tend to find with the wind. What I'm looking for, if we use an example, we're going out Saturday, Sunday, I'm looking for Friday for that wind to be dying off at lunchtime Friday and that swell to be dropping back. Like I said earlier, I'm not crossing that bar unless it's 2 meters or lower and 12 seconds or more apart in a trailer boat. So if that wind is dropping back, I'm not looking at going out unless it's anything below 10 knots. I'm not going to bother even going out there any more than 10 knots. It's pretty uncomfortable if you are out there. That bar crossing is going to be pretty unsafe as well. So I'm looking for that to be dropping off on the Friday lunchtime, because I know I'm going to launch that Saturday morning, and hopefully by then it's around that 5 knots as predicted. And then I'm looking for it to be good all the way until Monday lunchtime. Even though I'm coming back in Sunday evening, I want it good till that Monday lunchtime, because then I know I've got a massive weather window either side of the days I'm going out, that if it came forward, I'm still safe to get home on those 2 days. If you push it and it's a tight window, it's not worth doing. You're going to get a hiding. It's going to be unsafe. You don't want to be doing it. Right guys, that's enough of the safety chat. That just covers the bare basics. Like I said, I'm no expert at the Greymouth Bar. I'm no expert at tuna fishing, but they're the bare basics that I believe you need on board your boat, or you need to try and follow. That's what we do on board the Wasted Seaman and Valhalla. So let's move into the equipment now, and probably the more exciting stuff. We run, for our rod and reel combo, we'll use the Telica 50 as our reel, and that's spooled with 37 kilos. We've got around 900 meters of braid on the back, which is a Power Pro hollow ace, and then around 50 meters of 37 kilo top shot on there. We don't run wind-on leaders. A lot of people do run wind-on leaders for their trailer boat, and it is a lot easier. The only reason I don't is because on Valhalla they don't, and that's why I've been taught. So it just makes my life easy with Valhalla and the Wasted Seaman. So yes, we've got the Shimano Telica 50 watt in here. It's got plenty of grunt, 25 kilos of drag. We've got around 950 meters on here, plenty of line. And then we've got it paired with the Shimano Tiagra Ultra rod, which is a full roller rod. Yep, there's a bit more maintenance in it, but this is a wicked combo. It's an awesome setup. It feels really good when you're hooked up to some big fish. We've landed some pretty big tuna on this setup. The reason why I went with the Telica, not the Tiagras, yes, the Tiagras have got a louder clicker. They've been around a long time. There's a few more other things in their body. I don't really know the technical details too much, but the reason why I like my Telicas over the Tiagras is they're a smaller, more compact reel. They're way nicer, I think, personally, when you stand up fishing. A bit different when you're on the big boat sites of Valhalla and that, where you've got a game chair. The Tiagras are more of a must because they're a louder clicker. You can hear them over the big diesel engines. Yes, the Tiagras, the 50 and the 80 wides are still fine for stand-up, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it. I just find the Telicas a bit more comfortable. Now also, we had a play last year on the new Shimano Telica 25s. I've got 650 meters on here. This is an awesome little compact reel. It's got all the grunt in the world. It's actually got a louder clicker than the 50 wide. We caught a few nice bluefin tuna on this last year. I got probably my biggest one, which we didn't land. We had him right at the boat side and we busted him off, but he was easy 150 kilos, we've estimated. We got into the boat in 4 minutes with this little compact reel. Because it doesn't have as much line as the 50, I probably wouldn't run this as a lure rod. It would just be mainly used for bait fishing and so on. Because when you're chasing them with lures, they take a lot of line pretty damn quick. So you're gonna lose 400 meters, 500 meters pretty quick as well sometimes. So you might be pushing it a little bit with this, but it does still work. Definitely, you could still chase them with lures. You just have to be on your game when you hook up pretty quick. But yeah, great little reel, great combo again. Now this setup here, the Shimano Telica 50 on the Tiagra Ultra rod, isn't a cheap setup. These retail around $3,000. Now Shimano do have a more entry-level game setup range. Shimano have the TLD 50 wide, and then you can get the Status rod, which will have your combo under $1,000. You can upgrade to the Abyss rod, which is a beautiful rod as well. It is a little bit more expensive, but it is an absolute weapon. The Abyss and the Ultras are beautiful Shimano rods, but so is the Status. So you could go to the TLD 50 wide and a Status rod for under $1,000, and there's a nice cheap combo that will last you a very, very long time. Obviously, these more expensive combos, they are a nicer setup. Again, it's just that next level, and that's what you pay when you get to that price. The drag's a bit smoother, they feel a bit nicer. And the way I look at it, you spend the money now, you look after it, regular servicing, regular maintenance, they will last an absolute lifetime. Now, the reason why we went with the Power Pro hollow waist braid as a backing is if you use mono on those 50 wides, you can only really get 400 meters of line on them, whereas you can get over double that if you have the braid backing. Now again, it comes down to budget, but 400 meters, personally, I don't think it's going to be enough, especially if you're chasing these fish with lures. What you got to remember, what's different to here and Waihau Bay is Waihau Bay, a lot of their fish are around that 50 to 70-ish kilo. Down in Greymouth, a lot of them are 50 to 120 is quite common. So we're dealing with a bigger species instead of that 30, 40 kilo sort of mark. Yes, up at Waihau they chase them on jigs, and if you're thinking about chasing them in Greymouth on jigs, you need to make sure you take the right gun to the gunfight. Now, using your standard jigging rod and reel that's only got 200 or 300 meters on it isn't going to cut the mustard. You're going to need a lot more. Where I'd recommend a Shimano Stella 30,000. Yes, it's an expensive reel, but you're going to get 600 meters on there. You can jig with it really nicely. I do know people last year got some on jigs as well with a big 30,000 egg beater set combo. That's what I'd be looking at targeting them if you're going to look at doing it on the jigs. Now, targeting with lures, we haven't had a huge amount of success. We have definitely caught bluefin on lures, obviously, but we've had more success on bait, and that's probably because we target them more on bait than we do with lures. But this is the spread, or a similar spread that I'll be running, which is a mix of Bonds and McClymont lures. So in my shotgun position, I like to run a bullet head lure, like the Bonds weapon or so. That runs it beautifully, nice and straight. And then in front of that, I'll have a daisy chain of squid or birds like this here, which gives you that plenty of action. I run my shotgun quite long. And then on my two long riggers, I'll run two different head shapes, but small lures. So this Bonds D-shackle is a must in my spread. It's never not in there when we're chasing any species. The D-shackle is always there. It's a nice cup face lure head, and I always have it in the green Lumo. We've caught plenty of bluefin tuna on this, marlin, Pacific bluefin, and obviously we've got that yellowfin this year. So he's always in my spread, and in front of him he'll be paired with this bird or a chain of birds. On my other long rigger, I'll be running this McClymont Mini, which is an angled face head, two different actions side by side. We might change the colours up a little bit, as I like to have different colours all around, but we like to mix our heads. So he'll be in the other long rigger position with the bird out in front. Then as we come in, our lures get a little bit bigger, and I'll be running the Bonds BTK in one of our short corners, and then this McClymont Bogey, which is another angle face lure as well. Then also we'll be running a 6 setup, which will have a deep diver like this Nomad here. These sit in that water column around that 5 to 10 meters, depending on what lure you're running. And this targets a whole different column of water instead of all on the surface. It's targeting that lower. We've had a lot of success on these deep divers, so these would always be in my spread. Now, we always start our lures a bit further back, around that 6th to 7th wave is where our two short corners will be, and they're side by side. And then 2 or 3 waves back from that, we'll run our 2 long riggers, and then 3 waves back from that, we'll run our shotgun. So they're all about 3 waves further back than you do if you're marlin. You can run them side by side because of marlin. You've got to zigzag your spread because the marlin will come in and stay on the surface and jump out the side. You end up with tangles if you run them side by side. With a tuna, that'll come in, grab it and go straight down. So you can get away with them side by side quite comfortably. Now, if you don't have outriggers, it doesn't mean you're not going to catch tuna. You don't need outriggers to catch tuna. It just helps get your lures into clean water at the side. So if you don't have riggers and you've got 3 rods or 2 rods, you will be fine. You're still in with a chance to catch a tuna. If you've only got 2 or 3 rods, what I'll be doing is running definitely 1 deep diver and the Bonds D-shackle, and then potentially the Greymouth Mini here. They would be my 3 if you're running 3 lures, and then just run 2 long out of your corner of your boat and then 1 shotgun longer, and you should be fine. If you have got outriggers and you can't run them all in your outriggers, it doesn't matter as well. The reason we've got the 23-foot outriggers is so we can run both our long and short lures out of them, plus our teasers. But when it comes to tunaing, you're not running your 2 teasers. You don't run lures without hooks in them. There's no need for the teasers. Some people run a dredge. I don't run a dredge. I'm just going to run my 2 lures out my outriggers, and then a long shotgun, and then a short shotgun, which will be this deep diver. Okay, drag and drag control. So on all my reels at strike, we'll be running at 14 kilos. When we're towing lures, we'll have that button back at the strike to be 10 kilos. So when he comes out and grabs it, it's only at 10 kilos, not 14, and our breakaway clip on the outrigger is running at 4 kilos, and that will set the hook nicely in the corner of his mouth, hopefully. Now, we don't touch that drag, we don't touch that rod until we've cleared all the gear, the angler's harnessed up, clipped in, then we'll bump it up to 14 kilos. If he's sitting nice at 10 kilos and we're getting line, we'll leave it there. What we tend to find, if the fish starts to dive, we'll put another couple of kilos of drag to see if we can turn his head. If we manage to turn his head, we'll start to gain some line, we'll pull it back a couple of kilos, hopefully he's still coming up, and then we'll just fight him there. So when he turns around again, we can put a little bit more hurt on him, and hopefully we'll start to control the fish around drag control, and every time he goes to dive, you put a bit of hurt, he'll turn around and want to come back up. What you tend to find with these tuna though, they'll find that water column that they're pretty happy to live in, and they will be stubborn and just live there. Now what we tend to find is you end up just circling the fish, which is fine. But if you've been doing that for 20 minutes or so and nothing's changed, he's just sitting there, you're not getting any line back, there's no momentum going your way, he's just holding there. You need to change up what you're doing to try and change the behavior of the fish. So what we tend to do, if we've been circling, we'll then put a bit more drag on him, hopefully that'll turn him and pop up. If that doesn't work, we'll still put a couple more kilos on, and then we'll drive forward on him, which will then have your line angled at the back of the boat, and hopefully you can plane him up. Hopefully that will work. If that does work and he comes up, then we'll turn around on him, keep that line tight, chase him a bit like a marlin. Hopefully he stays up in that line, and sometimes you tend to find they'll hold in that 5 meters, 10 to 5 meter water column again, and you just got to have that drag control, helm control, might have to do circles, might have to back up on him, drive away on him. You just have to keep mixing up the game to keep you in control, because the more the fish sits there, he's resting, and he's going to have more energy to take you away again. So yes, you don't have to target the tuna on lures, you can do it with bait. Now, it is a messy and smelly boat when you're doing this, but it can be very effective. We mainly obviously use hoki as our bait and chum, but you can use gemfish and barracuda and so on as chum and bait as well. So all we do, we grab a slab, put the hook through the top, make sure the hook is presented nicely, and then slowly let that bait drift through the water column. If you are going to go close to the trawlers and start chucking baits at the trawlers, you do not need to be close to the trawler. You can be 20 meters, 30 meters away from the side of the trawler comfortably and still catch a fish there. Like I said earlier, if you're going to go chuck them near the net, do not go across the back of the boat if they're hauling. And if you can't see the net and they're hauling, just wait till you can see the net. What I would prefer to do is wait till the net is just in the back of the trawler, that you can see the back of the net, then chuck some baits at it then, because there's going to be a lot of chum coming out of that net into that water column out the back. Be very mindful that these trawlers do just turn without notice, so you always want to be watching what's going on. He could just turn on to you pretty quick, so keep an eye out on those trawlers, but you don't need to be close to these trawlers to catch tuna. You can be far away from them. So sounder settings, and what do we run? So we're running Garmin on board our boat. We've got a GT51 transducer and a 175 1 kilowatt through-hole transducer. So what we're doing is we've got our GT51 looking at the top 50 meters of the water column, as that's the area I know I can raise fish out of, and then we've got our 1 kilowatt looking from that 50 to 150. Now, there's every chance we'll raise a fish from 80 meters, but the chances are not as high. So I'm looking in those areas to see if I can find more fish, if I'm not finding them in that top 50, and then I'll work those fish for a bit, or the bait for a bit, and if nothing pops up, and I'm like, well, this fish here, the bait's good, I'll pull the gear in and I'll start chumming, and hopefully that will raise them up that way. You don't have to be by the trawlers, like I said. You can just be in areas of the trench that look good, where there's pressure points, there's a temperature break, and there's bait. You can just chum there as well. Which obviously leads to, am I looking at SSTs and currents and so on in time zero? Yes, I am. Not as much at the Hoki Trench, but definitely when we're going out of Kaikoura or Milford or wherever I'm looking at those pressure points. You're looking for areas where the current's pushing against the likes of the side of the trench, or there's a pinnacle and it's pushing against that and creating an upwelling, which brings the bait up, the fish come up and they're going to work those areas. I'm looking for temperature breaks, working the edge of those temperature breaks, either side of it, to try and find where the bait is holding. This leads to obviously leadering the fish, landing the fish. So you should always have a very good set of leader gloves on board your boat. These fish, they do pull very hard. So you want to make sure you've got a very good set of leader gloves on board to land this fish. You're not going to do it with your standard set of gloves. You need something that's really going to be able to put some hurt on that fish to help pop them that last little bit. They do pull hard. If you get a grumpy one at the boat, he's going to go mental. Now, I've seen it time and time again on videos. People get these pelagic species, marlin, tuna, beside their boat, and they knock the boat out of gear into neutral. These fish need to keep moving. Just leave your boat in idle. It'll just slowly do circles. People around you will know you're hooked up. It's pretty obvious when you're hooked up. Radio up as well if you need to. People will get out of your way so you can land this fish. Now, if you're going to land this fish and bring them on board the boat, you want to make sure you've got one flying gaff on board, a second gaff, and another rope that you can put a tail wrap around them. So get into the boat, flying gaff, put a second gaff in, tail wrap them, then he's all secure. Then what we'd like to try and do, dong him on the head beside the boat and then bleed him out there instead of bringing him on board before we bleed him out. You will find if you bring him on board and kill him on board and try and bleed him out, they go ballistic on the boat, and then you're at risk of something breaking like a hose or a fuel pump or something like that down the back. It's easier to do it boat side in a trailer boat. Different on a big boat like Valhalla, you've got plenty of deck space, there's nothing they can really damage. On a trailer boat, there's not much space when you get a 150 kilo bluefin on your deck. So if you can do it boat side, that's what we'd recommend. Yes, be very careful of sharks though, because there's plenty of them around out there. Now, coming down to weighing the fish, some people want to get their fish weighed, which is fair enough. We don't tend to weigh them. I'll put in the description the weigh formula that you can use, which is your length and girth will give you a very good estimate down to a few kilos. We have back checked this against other fish that have been professionally weighed, and it is within a couple of kilos. Now, if you are going to weigh it and keep it whole, make sure you've got a big game bag like one of those Stony Creek or Shimano big coolie bags. You've got plenty of ice on board. Gut and gill the fish, fill them with ice, get all ice around them, get a good slurry going so you keep them nice and cold, because they do warm up, and then you'll be sweet. The reason why on a trailer boat I can't be bothered taking a whole fish home, they take up a lot of deck space. They're a massive carcass. I can't be bothered filling the fish when I get home from a big adventure. So what we do out there, if it's the first fish of the season, we'll chop the tail off. It's always good to have yarn with the first tail. And then we'll slab them up. So we'll just leave the skin on, take the slabs off each side, put the skin down on top of the ice in the chili bins, and then we've got a free deck space. There's no fish in the way, there's no big coolie bag in the way, and we can go and chase some more fish and hopefully catch and release a few more. Well team, that's pretty much it, the basics on how to go and chase these bluefin tuna off the west coast of the South Island out of Greymouth. Now, like I said earlier, I'm no expert at chasing these fish. I'm no expert at the bar crossing. There's people way more qualified than me. This is just what I know, what I've learned over the last few years, and it's just to give you beginners, hopefully just a basic how-to video on how to get started to go and chase these awesome species. Now, if there's anything I've forgotten that you want to know more of, put a comment below or flip us a message on Instagram and we'll try and get back to you that way. If you do like this type of video, this tech talk stuff, and you want to see more of it on other species or gear, let me know and we can see if we can do some more for you as well. But hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. And I can't wait to see you guys all out there chasing these massive bluefin tuna. Let's go!